Well, we could definitely start with, I have something that I can talk about that'll actually make us happy, right? For the first time in
Okay.
like
All
a
right.
little bit, right? Some like semi good news. All right. And I think you'll like this one, Steve, because I actually thought about you when this story came out. So this came out on the 10th, and it's from Common Dreams. As you can see, it says what a healthy democracy should look like. Connecticut's small donor or small dollar campaign program, a model for restoring power to the people. New report details how state initiative leveled the playing field for candidates and ultimately led to better legislative outcomes for communities. So it says Connecticut's statewide small dollar donor program has resulted in more competitive races, allowed new voices to get elected, and led to better government policies, according to a report released Thursday by advocacy group Common Cause. And apparently, they're the ones who are really leading the charge behind this. Have you heard of this group, Steve?
Common Cause?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, sure. They've been around forever.
Oh, okay, okay. Yeah, so they are leading the initiative on this program called Citizens Election Program. And so it says the Citizens Election Program, enacted in 2008, is a voluntary program in which candidates for statewide and state legislative offices must agree to fundraising and spending restrictions and demonstrate public support by raising between $5,000 and $250,000, depending on the office sought, from small dollar donors. Those contributions can be between $5 and $100 each. Once those conditions are met, candidates receive grant money for the program, which is funded primarily from the sale of abandoned properties in the state's custody. And so then it talks about essentially like the things that have come out of this, right? So it says candidates participate. From 2008 to 2018, an average of 75% of all state legislative candidates joined the CEP. In 2018, a record 85% of General Assembly candidates joined. Small dollar donors dominate. In 2018, 99% of campaign funds used by state legislative candidates came from individuals, and the majority of those were from within a candidate's district, which I think that's also really important because we see that a lot of these races, it's highly influential, like lots of money flows into them, and a lot of that money isn't even from the state in which these representatives are trying to win. Races are more competitive. Following implementation of the CEP, Connecticut rose to the 8th most competitive state and has continued to rank in the top 3. In 2018, the state was ranked first in the nation for monetary competitiveness. That's a pretty cool stat to have behind you. Mm-hmm. New voices get elected. The percentage of women elected in the state legislature increased by 33%, which that I'm not, that doesn't really do anything for me because that's just identity politics, and I really, I don't really appreciate that, but whatever. Better government policy. So following elections in which candidates ran under the program, Connecticut's legislature passed the nation's first paid sick leave policy for service workers, the nation's first genetically modified organisms labeling bill, and voted to return nearly $24 million annually in unclaimed bottle deposits back to the public, a measure lawmakers failed to pass previously due to pressure from industry lobbyists. So again, I think that's why it's really important. And, they're setting the trend for this because it says in November, voters in Oregon and Alaska will decide on campaign finance reforms proposed through citizen ballot initiatives. Oregon's measure, if passed, would limit campaign contributions and expenditures, require disclosure of contributions and expenditures, and require the political advertisements identify the people or entities that paid for them. In Alaska, which I thought that was the rule to begin with, but I guess maybe not in Oregon. In Alaska, campaign finance reform is integrated into a ranked choice voting initiative. It would require disclosure of political contributions of $2,000 or more, replace partisan primaries with an open top 4 system, and enact ranked choice voting.
Yeah, ranked choice voting is on the ballot in North Dakota, Alaska, and Massachusetts coming up. Moving for People's Party was pushing that fact, getting that out there. It's great stuff. Our friend John, right, that's now in Scandinavia or something like that.
Yeah, in Finland.
In Finland, worked on the ranked choice voting in Massachusetts. So shout out to John.
Right. Yeah, that's interesting, especially in the context of what just happened in Rhode Island. I'm sure you're familiar with that, right? With the basically a progressive wave in Rhode Island was successful in getting rid of a lot of long time corrupt, conservative Democrats in the state house. So it was interesting. I don't, I think there's definitely a movement of disgust and populism to throw the bums out basically at the state level, which is really good because it's not just about the top, right? It's
Right.
about what's going on the bottom. Now with this particular initiative, I'm not sure what I think about that. First, because like to say like 80, what the statistic was, 85% of the candidates are participating in this program, and then to imply there's a causative relationship between them participating in this program and more women getting elected and certain progressive things happening. It's a correlation. I'm not sure it's a causative effect, and I'm not sure. Connecticut, having lived there for a long time, I know it's one of the most corrupt states in terms of the state legislature, and I'd be, just like a bottle, a deposit reform bill. That's great, but like we're talking about like major. We want major change at the top, it's just really talking about that kind of major change. Just playing devil's advocate here. It's anything like this is a positive thing. I just don't know how much it is really a model for the rest of the country, as opposed to like, I think we need to look at every state, what's going on, like in Rhode Island, what's going on in Connecticut, what's going on in Massachusetts with congressional races, and kind of like figure out what's working, what's not working.
Yeah, but it's definitely, I mean, it's a positive. I mean, the more you normalize good legislation, the more, people have those expectations in neighboring states and so forth. So, it's good news. I mean, it would be really nice if the largest state, California, actually took advantage of having Dem supermajorities and actually did something
Right.
of a progressive nature.
Right.
It would be great if something like this happened in California and we start seeing some reforms that are really needed.
I mean, a lot of it, ranked choice voting is a big one. And in California, they have the, law where the top two vote getters in the primaries are the ones who are on the ticket.
Yeah, they have a jungle primary, right?
Well, I don't know what the term is, but I mean, in Nancy Pelosi's district, Shahi Buttar is going to be in the general election on the ticket. So that's normally in most states, if you didn't win a plurality or majority in the primary, you're not top vote getter. You're not going to appear on the ballot in November. Whereas in California, you do even if you're in the same party, if you're the second top vote getter. So there's I mean, a lot of states do different things.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what other states do that in particular, and maybe you wouldn't really need that if you had ranked choice voting, but I thought that's interesting that California has that. I had never heard of that before.
Yeah, I just think that this, this type of initiative, especially because it seems like this is something that's people powered, right? It's something that it comes from the direction of what the people in the community are looking for, and the fact that, I mean, whether there's a direct link between these how things have changed, even if it's slightly, even if it's like the small initiatives. I just feel like that's where it needs to start. And we need to see these positive little granules planted so that other people can be motivated, right? Because like what Jim was saying, that this is Connecticut that's doing this, and just like how in Maine, that's where ranked choice voting first happened, and it set the precedent for other states to do it, and that's why now other states are doing that, right? And so that's why I was saying that I think that this is a good first step. It's not
right, and I think it's really good that
it never goes far enough and all this, but ultimately I think that this is it really is highlighting the fact that people know that the main reason for this corruption, or one of the main reasons for this corruption, is money and politics. you know? And I feel like that conversation of getting money out of politics has kind of gone by the wayside, especially because it's always this like partisan bullshit that's going on, you know? When ultimately, like George Carlin said, it's one big party, right?
Right.
And you ain't in it.
I'm sorry?
Yeah.
And you ain't in it.
Exactly, and you ain't in it. We ain't in it.
Yeah, the only time any campaign finance reform laws are used are as a political weapon.
Right.
See, you know, because they're so selective in their use. It's always BS when they do it. You know.
Another interesting thing, though, is to show the influence of money in politics, and obviously it's you know it's vast. But on the other hand, money is not a guarantee that you're going to win an election, because you look at like Kennedy running against Markey in Massachusetts, you know, had spent more money, had a lot of money behind him, and was not able to get the votes. And in 2016, of course, Trump spent a fraction of what the Hillary campaign spent, and still managed to win enough electoral votes to win the presidency. So it's not just a matter of money is not a guarantee of winning votes. Doesn't matter how much advertising you buy. If you're not a viable candidate, you aren't going to necessarily get elected.
Yeah, 100%. Sorry, I do agree with that. But at the same time, we also have to take into account that a lot of people don't run for Congress or for any sort of state legislature or anything because of how much money that it takes to be able to even be a viable candidate.
Right.
Sorry, go ahead, Jim.
Yeah. Plus,
No,
like
right.
the fact that
Absolutely.
you have a shit to do. You know, you have a job, you have family.
Exactly.
Like who's gonna, like, you know, you have, it's a full time. If you're gonna do a good job, it's a full time thing. And what do you actually get paid as a legislator in a state office? You know, sometimes it's paltry. You know what you actually get. So unless you have family that's supporting you, it's pretty hard to make a go of it. Or you're on the take, right? You know,
or you're somebody who is like, it's financially well off, like
right.
You
And
know what I'm saying?
that's what keeps
and
happening.
So it becomes something where it's only the elite or the people who have money that are in control of everything, and then you know the poor folk, or you know the regular people, they don't have a voice because they can't ever run for anything.
Right.
Sure, which mirrors our justice system, right? I mean, it's all about, if you've got the money for the lawyer, your percentage chances are just so much higher. Yeah.
Which again is why I'm in favor of higher pay. You know, which is not a popular thing, but I think higher pay for people who are serving in office, and of course strictly prohibit you know contributions and other ways that they currently, you know, survive through lobbyists or whatever. But you know, when you pay them $12,000 a year, they can't survive on that. They need to get a decent pay, and that needs to be their pay. You know, that no other sources, but that's their pay, and they need to, and from the congressional level, national level down, I think you need to have better pay. But I know that's not a popular position, because people are saying like, well, you know, politicians are we're paying too much already. We shouldn't be paying more money for that. But we're actually paying a lot more because of the corruption than we would be under you know, more equitable system of pay. But that's just my opinion. Yep,
and you can also talk about limits on their ability to jump right into lobbying and all that, right? As you know, say if you were to have a bill where you were to increase pay, I would make that part of it as well, right?
Well, the revolving door. I mean, where the policy decisions are made with you know, an interest in landing a lucrative position after you get out of office. I mean, somebody who's in the SEC, for instance, it's an appointed position. It's not even an elected position. Like you're in that in a position in the executive branch, and you make policy based on what's going to benefit your corporate cronies, and then of course you walk into this plush position after you leave off, after you you know, finish your term.
Right.
You know, in government, you know, that's obviously that's an issue. It's not just elected. It's also all these appointed people.
Yeah. And after you've had your turn, getting insider information that you can use to trade on,
of course, that too.
Short sell certain stocks during a pandemic to make yourself some money.
So.
Yeah, maybe one giant bill that can fix all these things. Say, okay, we're going to give you plenty of money to live on, so you can afford to live in DC and afford to come and go, but we're cutting off all this other stuff that currently is just leading to the corruption, right? The abuse of office.
I think along the lines of what Daisy is talking about here, I think it would be interesting to kind of, I mean, maybe somebody's already done this, to have kind of like a little database or a spreadsheet of different states and what because Connecticut has this example of this, policy, and then Rhode Island has this progressive, I forget I think it's Rhode Island Progressives or something like that, organization that was very successful and very organized. And what are other states doing? And kind of looking at what works, what doesn't work, because why reinvent the wheel every time? Like I like to see stuff happen in Massachusetts, but maybe we should look at what's going on in Rhode Island or Connecticut or other states and see what could we apply here, or are people already applying that? And could we get together and work on that? So that would be something that maybe a future show we could talk about. What other states are doing. I'd be interested in that.
Yeah, definitely.